Welcome to today's webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us. My name's Sarah Wray and I'm the editor of Cities Today publication. Today's event is the first in a series of webinars that we're running with Cityzenith about one of the hottest technology topics around, digital twins, but more importantly, how they can be used to address the major societal challenge of cutting carbon emissions and the climate crisis. It's brilliant to see that we have so many people registered and joining us today, including city officials from the US, China and Europe. During today's event, Michael Jansen, the CEO and founder of Cityzenith, is going to give us a presentation on how digital twins can help cities reduce emissions and save money, and some of the cities that are taking part in the Clean Cities, Clean Future programme to demonstrate this. Later in the webinar, we'll be putting your questions to Michael. So any burning questions that you've had about digital twins, please submit them throughout the event and we will be talking about them later on. So welcome, Michael, and please, I'll hand it over to you to do your presentation.
Thanks very much, Sarah, and thank you to Cities Today for helping to organize this first event, as Sarah mentioned, in a series, and thank you to all of you. We had a very large turnout today for this event, so we're super happy. I am going to go off camera while I present today, then come back on for the Q&A session, and we have a lot to share. We're going to talk about the company, where we came from, where we're headed, and how we got to Clean Cities, Clean Future, and what that really means. So again, thanks to everyone for attending, and I'm looking forward to making this presentation. So Clean Cities, Clean Future is an initiative that we launched last year to effectively implement digital twin technology in major cities to help them decarbonize specifically major elements of the built environment, specifically buildings. As many of you know, buildings are a major contributor to carbon emissions in cities, and we have discovered that digital twin technology is uniquely powerful in helping this aspect of the built environment to deal with the complexity that is decarbonization, and especially doing that at scale. So we had a lot of experience in the company in doing digital twin projects over the years. We were founded in 2009. Our very first chief technology officer was the creator of Google Earth. So we've had some wonderful technologists come in and help really build what I think is a radical departure from traditional technologies that you find in cities and in the built environment. And we call this digital twin technology. And specifically, what we specialize in is urban digital twins. So urban digital twins are digital representations of the physical built environment in cities, including transport networks, buildings, infrastructure, all kinds of things. And they're connected to the data in and around them. And that comes from a multitude of sources. So what digital twins, especially urban digital twins, are uniquely good at is integrating key tools essential to cities, from GIS to building information modeling, public city data, IoT and sensor data, so on and so forth, into a single common 3D model. What that model allows you to do with all of the data present and in a format in which it can effectively be understood commonly is to apply and integrate a wide range of analytics tools that may be machine learning or artificial intelligence based, or simply time series based visual tools to take that information at an incredible scale and scenarioize and predict complex outcomes. That's the beautiful thing about digital twins. So nothing new about digital twins per se. They've been around, thank you NASA, for a long time in aerospace and in space. And then more commonly, you find them in manufacturing, even in oil and gas. And today, more and more in the building industry, in especially cities. What they can deliver is unprecedented. This is a report that we recently received from Ernst & Young that has commented that digital twins already deployed in cities are helping to reduce operating costs by 35%, boost productivity by as much as 20%, and help cut emissions by 50 to 100%, which is quite staggering. Forbes recently, in an article, mentioned that 500 major world cities will rely on digital twins for daily operations by 2026. That's 5 years from now. And I think it was a couple weeks ago that ABI Research put out an article mentioning that digital twins are forecast to save as much as $280 billion in city planning, development, and operating costs over the next 5 years as well, which is, again, a staggering figure. The digital twin market, per se, for digital twin software and solutions last year was pegged at about $3 billion and is expected to grow to over $48 billion in the next 5 years as well. So, the inconvenient truth is that buildings in cities are the world's largest polluters. Buildings produce 50 to 70% of total emissions in cities, 30% of total emissions globally, and 3/4 of all buildings in the United States will need to be retrofitted in order to achieve net zero goals set out by the current administration in the Paris Agreement. However, of these, I believe it's 6 million, almost 5.9 million commercial buildings in the United States, only 1.7% or 100,000 are currently green buildings. And of, again, that same commercial building stock, there's fewer than 500 truly net zero commercial buildings. That's 0.008% of the commercial building stock in America. So this is a unique opportunity to change the game. This is where American cities can lead by example, by helping to guide the commercial industry, the real estate and building industry, specifically the big contributor to achieving those net zero emissions. Many cities have published, I believe, mandates. I think New York has done that. DC has done that, if I'm not mistaken. Los Angeles, shame on me if I'm wrong. The World Economic Forum recently reported last week that by December 31st this year, 1,000 world cities will issue mandates to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. So for buildings, how do you get there? The key is really in the combination of steps. It's not one tool or one approach or one strategy that will work. It will involve, first and foremost, the implementation of energy-saving technologies, what they call BMS, or Building Management System, and EMS technologies that can generally help reduce energy consumption by 15 to 20% on average. On top of that, there are tools that can help commercial building owners scenario-wise the renewable energy potential for their property. So how much solar potential on the roof? Is there potential for solar glass with this type of exposure based upon the climate and the city and location on the globe? Geothermal potential, et cetera, et cetera. All these things can also be uniquely analyzed in a 3D information model. And finally, with the residual positive carbon fossil fuel dependency that results even after you deploy an EMS system, even after you deploy renewables. Most of the time, commercial properties are still spending anywhere from 25 to 60% of the original in terms of their on fossil fuel dependency. And that can be offset by procuring carbon rewards or coins or offsets through a variety of sources. And that's effectively how you get down to net zero for commercial properties, is that the acquisition of carbon offsets helps you get there. Now, different things can be carbon offsets. You can have renewable projects, wind projects, solar projects, which can be sold or in part, and as well as things like forests. The Brazilian governments across Africa are now looking at carving up their large forest areas into basically square meter plots of land that can effectively be rented to companies that are basically polluting too much, and to offset those emissions. And so that requires both a building specific, which is what we do, as well as a geospatial specific, which is the area around the city. And the lovely thing about Smart World, which I'm going to show you in a second here, is that we can look at data across an entire nation, across an entire city, district, in a building. We can even go down into the basement of a building walk down to the third sub-basement and look at an electrical panel and look at data. So it's incredibly extensible from the most minute to the most macro of data points. And what's driving all of this is, of course, the new administration in the United States has set aside a bunch of money to help build back the country's infrastructure. Smart buildings is a big part of that budget. They've estimated, I think, in Washington that there's the green building retrofit market with this new legislation will create a $200 billion market. So it's a huge opportunity in America alone for something to move forward. So why isn't this not moving really faster? Well, green building retrofits can be costly, risky, and time consuming. Today, you really need to hire consultants. They're either architectural or engineering firms and specialists. They tend to be expensive. And then solutions themselves, EMS and BMS systems that I mentioned, energy management systems, cost anywhere from $2 to $7 per square foot, which is kind of not cheap. If you think about the average costs that a building owner incurs, their annual costs for energy are about $2.10 per square foot. They pay about the same in maintenance costs. They pay the most in taxes. So this is actually a major expense for them. They're actually paying more for the implementation of the system than they actually pay for energy today. So that's one of the challenges. The payback period on these implementations of BMS and EMS systems is averaging 4 to 7 years and closer to 8 or 10 in many cases. And the problem is that most commercial property owners to make investments today in 2021 require a payback within just a few years. 50% require a payback within 3 years or less, and everybody else pretty much within 5 years. So unfortunately, economically, it's a no-go for too many, and hence less than 1% of annual operating revenues in lead building retrofits is about all we spend these days. That has to triple to get to these 2050 targets that cities are now setting for themselves and nations too. So what is the big challenge, and how can we kind of begin to address some of this? I think the green building retrofitting, as I mentioned, is labor intensive. It's a bit risky, and what really makes it more complicated is an extremely fragmented market of different players that have different technologies. If you see the gentleman in the photograph, that was me before I got started down this path. There are thousands of single-purpose energy management, BMS, GIS, EMS, CCMMS tools that often don't interoperate, don't play nicely together, and very important ones like BIM, like GIS, like things like that. So the incumbent software companies in cities have been carving up the territory to their own benefit for many, many years. And the result is that owners hesitate to commit to substantial capital outlay when they have this much financial uncertainty around them. So we built Smart World to take on this problem. And you can think of Smart World as like Sim City, but for real cities. It's a bit like Google Earth on steroids. It's a data aggregator, visualizer, and analytics platform that allows multiple stakeholders working in a project to collaborate in a common environment, optimizing and correlating efficiencies across the entire life cycle of projects, from design and planning to construction to ultimately the ongoing operations of those assets. So digital twins themselves, especially urban digital twins, are uniquely good at helping owners aggregate and simulate complex solutions. So you're really not going to find digital twins being deployed on simple, almost cookie cutter type residential projects, but you will find them on major city scale or what we call mixed use development or institutional projects quite commonly in the future. What they're good at is predicting energy consumption and financial outcomes at scale, and specifically analyzing the simultaneous deployment of multiple strategies to help buildings go green, not just the impact of a single BMS system, but what happens when we combine that BMS system with solar or geothermal or solar glass or electric heat pumps, high performance glazing, etc. What is the optimal engineering and financial outcome that helps an owner get to a certain place? And that's a really important part of the challenge that we're taking on. So, We, as a company, we are all people from the buildings industry, by and large. We've worked on large-scale, city-scale projects most of our careers. The people are involved with this company. I also happened to build the largest 3D information modeling company in the world about 10 years ago that Sequoia Capital famously backed, and we took it from 10 to hundreds and hundreds of employees and ended up becoming the world's largest provider of 3D BIM and information services to the AEC industry. I think we work with 25 of the top 50 firms in the world. So there's a crew here which is highly qualified and has built an extraordinary piece of technology. We sell it to property owners, facilities managers, infrastructure operators, energy firms, architects, engineers, and governments are an interesting one, which I'll get into. What is neat about SmartWill, our core platform, is it's fundamentally about helping project owners to get more efficient by correlating efficiencies between systems, more sustainable, because sustainability often involves the simultaneous deployment of and management of multiple systems, and doing this in an automated way, so it's more AI and ML and software driven than manual. And that's the uniqueness of tools like this. The types of things that we get deployed on are airports, seaports, infrastructure projects, mixed-use commercial things, large master developments, downtown urban core regeneration projects, university campuses, entire real estate portfolios, utility companies use us, smart districts, like we recently did in Orlando, and even entire cities, both greenfield and existing. So, uniquely, and we'll get into this, but we have the most advanced urban digital twin platform out there in the market today. We believe that digital twins are the next generation urban management technology that will initially collaborate with GIS and BIM and other tools like that, and eventually consume, rendering less relevant or irrelevant a lot of tools that cities have been reliant on for a long time, and we can already see that happening. We're flexible and scalable. That's what's unique about it. A lot of these tools that you buy from different companies ask you to keep buying the same kinds of products from them over and over again, so you get locked into a proprietary ecosystem of tools. And what we've managed to do is to become the glue that combines the best-in-class tools out there. So, and I'll explain why this is a huge advantage in a second when we get involved in projects. But our unique approach has been caught the world's attention. We are now officially, we've been appointed by the World Economic Forum as global innovators working in their Net Zero Cities department, or I should say on their Net Zero Cities initiative. We also are members of the Digital Twin Consortium, which is the world's largest consortium of companies and agencies and committed to propagating the use and understanding of digital twins. We have a workshop there called Build Back Better with Digital Twins. It's all about this very program. And if 2030 Districts is a network of commercial building owners that work together in major American cities to lower emissions. First, 50% by 2030 across 3 categories, and by 2050 completely. And finally, the Green Building Council. The Pennsylvania branch of the Green Building Council is a partner in an upcoming project in Pittsburgh. So as I mentioned, we call this initiative Clean Cities, Clean Future. And what we've agreed to do is to sponsor the implementation of urban digital twins in 10 to 15 major cities to help commercial building owners dramatically reduce carbon emissions. We don't do the entire city. We provide a full model of the whole city, but an area model, a high resolution model of about 4 square miles, where we tend to focus on some specific either project and or district and or area of the city where a unique project of some kind is going on. And we'll talk about that when we get into the projects themselves. This initiative was mentioned widely in the media over the last year. It really knocked my socks off. There's a lot of interest in it because we are providing this technology to cities for free. We're providing this technology to the institutions for free. We're providing this technology to the universities for free. We monetize it by passing through the resultant applications that we develop through these pilots to the commercial entities in those cities, be it the commercial building owners, utility companies, and or others. And that's the revenue model. So it is caught a lot of attention, and I'll get into that also in a bit. But why it's compelling for the building owners is that because of this morass, if you will, of tools and whatnot, and the cacophony of solutions and cocktails of things out there, there is an opportunity to make this a lot more efficient. We believe for an approximately 10 cent per square foot investment in our digital twin software, we can unlock $3 to $5 per square foot in savings over the next 3 to 5 years, which if you're a building owner is staggering. The average rental, I think, in the States is around $26 to $32 per square foot. So you're talking about saving, and if they can get 10 or 15 or 30 cents, they'll take it. You're talking about $3 to $5 per foot. Most of it coming from energy and other unique concessions. And the market in the US, it's huge. There's 100 billion square feet of commercial office space, which is extraordinary. And what these, so we have the chance to create a model which is financially compelling, technologically compelling, and what we were looking for was the real go-to market. How are we going to work with cities to do this? And we discovered that we can certainly do that. We often benefit by working with the local green building authorities as well, which I'll explain here as we get into it. So there are the first 3 cities are either signed or almost signed. New York City was recently signed and announced. Actually, we sent out a global release today about the New York project in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Phoenix is a city we're very proud of that we are in talking to right now, and hopefully we'll be close to finalizing with by the end of this month. Pittsburgh is kind of in the same boat with them. We've been also speaking with them as well. I'm confident and looking forward to working with both of those cities. And we also recently received a commitment from the city of Las Vegas, which we're very proud of. And the other 2 that we are following up with in second and third meetings are Dallas and Chicago. The one outside the country right now with whom we've had extensive conversations is the city of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. Various reasons for that. It's one of the most progressive cities in Europe. All the cities we've chosen have an ambitious agenda. We chose them, they chose us, and I'll explain why as we kind of go through all of this. But New York, you can see why the digital twin having the aggregative capability is so absolutely fundamental. In New York, this is the Brooklyn Navy Yard project. We are working to build a digital twin now. We've already commissioned the main model, and different building owners, starting with Building 77, which is the main institutional building at the hub. We'll be taking the building data there, which was actually provided by a company called BuildD. It's being transferred into BuildD's platform. As I mentioned, there are 4 steps, and that therefore in each city there's probably going to be 4 or 5 different contributors of these key data points. BuildD is doing the energy analysis. AFG is doing the renewables analysis, and then CUNY, the City University of New York, is involved also. In fact, we've hired interns from and are paying interns from CUNY to work on this project now dedicatedly, and we set up an office in New York to do it. So the goal here is to show how both new and old buildings in the Navy Yard can deploy these technologies to find different paths to achieve these net zero goals. And we're looking forward to the first revelation of the model in this project. Phoenix is a wonderful city that we've been speaking with. I have to include them because we're very excited about them. Extremely dynamic team at the Downtown Phoenix Inc. group. Amazon is centrally involved there. It actually brought us into the project. Their head of smart cities actually conceived it, as far as I know, and brought us in. And the university partner there is ASU, who will also be involved. And Phoenix is interesting. A lot of people don't know that it's one of America's fastest growing cities. It's 5th largest in the country. And they have an ambitious agenda to study the redensification, sustainable redensification potential of Phoenix, because the city has just grown so fast. and it's just really fascinating. So we're looking forward to working with their very talented team there. In Pittsburgh also, we're getting closer to getting this thing all wrapped up. The main partner is the Green Building Alliance, and which is kind of the other side of the 2030 district coin in Pittsburgh. And they have actually in Pittsburgh the highest, I think, per capita adoption of green buildings in the United States, or the most square meterage. It's one of the two. And so we were very keen to work with them because we knew they had a very progressive, clued in, and excited commercial property community there. And we hope we can get this over the line soon. So these goals, the program has goals that are kind of common to all of them, although we always try to accommodate and tag along wherever we can into existing city goals and projects. But to build the twin of the entire area, it's about 4 square miles, and then create baseline asset models of key buildings. Now, a baseline asset model is basically a simplified 3D BIM model that we use inside a digital twin for the purpose of analysis. It looks like rooms, floors, equipment, and that's about it. So it's kind of a more skeletal model, but on the back end, it connects to a lot of data. This will demonstrate the real-time monitoring of building functions and operations, et cetera, and also visualize building-related infrastructure data analysis, and all these kinds of things, so that we really can get in deep on what's happening operationally. And then we get to the energy side, analyzing energy management protocols, possible renewable energy strategies, as I mentioned, giving various participants, whether it's university professionals, industry professionals, the same common, accurate, reliable information model to work with, and specifically to measure the operational, financial, and productivity savings in participating properties from this effort, including the potential earnings from carbon carbon credit offsets. So we have a lot of the work is mostly on Cityzenith to build the twin, develop the prototype, offer the training, etc., enroll everybody. The partner gets others involved as a local rallying point in the cities, and including the building owners by and large, and also help us with data collection, and then the development and integration of the most important tools, especially local tools. Our hope is to be able to get this to a good place, very soon. I can't believe how many cities are coming in quickly as they are. We're already at our December goal by the end of really August, early September. So 10 cities will be signed on, I think, this year, and that's going to be, we'll work in 2022 to really deliver hard to those cities. And then in the years to follow, 100 cities in the next couple of years, 300 cities in a couple of years after that really is the goal. So we have big plans here to really move the needle, move this forward, and we're super excited about it because it's just been years in the making and finally coming to fruition in such a beautiful way. And again, I'm very grateful to the team and the partners and the cities for their participation. I'm going to get into this last bit of the presentation kind of quickly. I've got about 5 or 10 minutes left, and then we'll go to Q&A. And this is really going into the business of all of this. We recently published a white paper about the company and some of the unique things that we do, including crowdfunding. So, people who are investing in Cityzenith are regular people from around the world who just care about changing life on the ground in their cities. That's what it is. They believe that Cityzenith is going to help make a cleaner, safer future for themselves and their families. And they believe that we have the best chance among companies to really scale this technology and this business. We raise money through what's called a Regulation A+ crowdfunding capital raise. This is very tightly regulated by the SEC. We can raise, I believe, up to $20 million. We have a registered broker-dealer. All this happens in New York. It's a tight process. It takes about 6 months just to apply before being qualified. FINRA also has to qualify you. So those of you who aren't familiar with crowdfunding, it's highly regulated. It's very tight. And even what the CEO can and can't say is actually regulated. So the offering that we have today, which is now gone live on the issuance platform, and we're so happy about that. And we just launched, after raising $4 million, we decided to move move and launch the campaign on something called the Issuance Platform, which is a very experienced and probably the top platform in the world for Regulation A+. They've done 40 of them. And they were so impressed by our early performance on our own that they asked us to come and join their platform. So I said yes in like 3 seconds. And on September 24th, we'll be making the announcement. The company is valued at about $37 million. We now have over 6,000 shareholders. We raised $3 million in this Reg A+ and another $1 million in Reg CF. So the company's moving along. If you're an investor, different things you can do. The share price went up 161% this year. You know, we're kind of, when you're one of the leading companies in a space which is growing really quickly, it's had a big impact on it. We've also signed a lot of big deals, which has been helpful. And I think there's a lot of confidence in the company's Clean Cities, Clean Future program as a way to really help popularize the use of the technology by important stakeholders. With a business model which is absolutely radical and investors absolutely love. Many investors will just hold the stock for 3 to 5 years, and you can expect a 7 to 10 times return for that. We also now, though, have signed up for what's called an alternative trading system. So come next year, shareholders will actually be able to sell their shares in real time. So if you bought shares at say $1 per share, and next year's share price is, for example, $2.50, and you want to sell, there will be an opportunity for that. There's no necessarily a need for a long-term hold. Investors just need to go to the Cityzenith website, click on the Invest button. You can then scroll through the entire what we call offering page to learn more about the opportunity and the details of the company, the team, the model, the whole thing. Even at the bottom, there's what's called an offering circular, which is a 80-page long investment memorandum with every detail about the company since its inception. And you know, I think before we go to Q&A, which I want to just close with a video and give you a look. We have a whole bunch of them today, but one I wanted to reserve for everyone was the new product video, and then finally the television advertisement that we're using for the national campaign starting in September. First, to the product video. And that was of our project in Orlando, which was the Orlando Sports and Entertainment District, a massive downtown urban core regen project where they're looking at leveraging a digital twin to correlate efficiencies between different operators on the same property. And you were seeing some BMS, especially EMS data there in one of the upcoming hotel properties. Finally, before I hand over to Sarah, I'm going to share with you a video that we had produced. It's actually a television commercial that introduces the CCF campaign to really anybody else out there. What we do is very, very, very complicated at Cityzenith. We have experts from all over the world who have worked with us on this. Some of the world's top visualization experts, some of the world's top game engine experts, crazy entrepreneurs like me that have taken money from Sequoia Capital and built companies. And we're very proud of who we are, what we're doing for the world, and how we can scale this. Ultimately, for us, it is all about future generations, and that was the inspiration for this video. Allow me to share this with you.
In just a few decades, 68% of us would be living in cities. But did you know that cities account for 3/4 of all global CO2 emissions, and population growth and poor planning is making the problem worse? With our transformational AI software platform, we pledge to try and make the world's most polluted cities more sustainable, clean, and efficient, because we want to build a better future for our children, and we want you to join us.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening and staying with us, everyone. We've got some questions in already, but please continue to send them and we will get through as many as we can. Any that we don't get to, Michael will pick up after the event offline. So I just wanted to ask you, what are some of the baseline requirements for a city to adopt a digital twin in terms of, skills, staffing resources, or data maturity, that type of thing? Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, it's true. No city or institution, for that matter, has perfect data. I think there is having an open or a data portal or a public data portal is certainly helpful. Most cities have the basics of digital twin, what they call stack needs, including GIS technology and other things like that. Generally, I think what's as important as the data needs is the use case. There are digital twins. I've actually, ladies and gentlemen, described one use case. They get used for all kinds of things. And so having an important use case, the key for data is you don't need to have all the data. You need to have all the data you need around a use case. And if you don't have the data that you need around that use case, a lot of times you can get comp data, which may not be that data from your city, but from another city, which you can use sometimes for the purpose of calculation that can approximate it. But just keep that in mind. It really depends upon the use case.
And what about within the city then? I mean, where would this sit, do you think, in terms of running it, taking responsibility for it, launching it?
That can also vary. It can be any of a few different departments or all three, or it can be someone outside the city. So it can be the Department of Sustainability, it can be the Department of Information Technology and Innovation, or it could be the Facilities Department, in all three, generally, for what we do. There may be cities that have a green building department. Often also we partner primarily with the local green building authority in that city. Why we do that is it's a lot easier generally, contractually, and they have the specific responsibility for green buildings. So they already have the city relationships, and typically the cities become adjunct partners to that agreement with, say, the Green Building Council or the 2030 District.
Okay. So you mentioned about the platform being available to selected cities at no cost. Can you explain a bit more for any cities who might be thinking, is that too good to be true? What's the small print? What's the long-term outlook for that, so that they can explain that to whoever would pass this in the city?
Yes, the business model is the technology is built. So when you look at a digital twin, especially an urban digital twin, people look at it and say that must cost millions of dollars. Well, it costs millions of dollars to build the platform, but to actually build a city model at this point, given the high level of integrations and featurization, is not as expensive for us as you might think. A lot of it is just time. So for us, the end consumer of the greatest direct value are commercial entities. Not necessarily only commercial, it can certainly be institutional entities as well, whether they're universities or healthcare organizations or whatever. So we firmly believe that those entities who will be receiving tremendous commercial value and savings from the deployment of the technology will happily pay the small fees. And the thought process is, over the course of this several months of pilots, we'll be studying different pricing models. We're already very familiar with prop tech pricing. We think we can come in so comfortably with the technology that's already built, given its the ease of putting together, that this would be a quote unquote no-brainer. Like, why wouldn't you? You'd have to come up with a really good reason to not do this.
Okay, then do you see this working for smaller and mid-sized cities as well as the larger cities, and what kind of differences do you see there, or what would you say to encourage those smaller cities?
I think it can. I think it really depends on the city. We are trying to work with different cities in this initiative. Rotterdam is much smaller than Chicago, and so we're going to learn some things there. I think we want to try working with all kinds of folks. It's the platform ultimately, if we're talking about 1,000 cities, is going to be open to everybody. So we want to learn what the needs of big cities are and help them. We want to learn what the needs of mid-sized cities are and help them. For there are far more mid-sized cities than there are large cities in the world. But of course, large cities are by mathematically the largest emissions producers too. So yes, the vision is that anybody can have this. There's no hook. The key will be seeing how successfully we can pass this, what results in solution is on through to the commercial stakeholders, which is a risk the company takes on. But because we work with the commercial stakeholders already, we have a good sense of what their needs are. So we think it's a smart way of effectively getting people with money who are going to earn a lot of money or save a lot of money from deploying technology like this to be able to effectively finance the entire model so that everybody else can use it. And when I looked at the numbers, they're extremely compelling. And doable. So I think over the course of this year, we're already speaking to cities who've kind of figured this out and building on us about what the future looks like. We're in what we call execution mode right now, and that's it. So it is an interesting model.
So from the some of the projects you've worked on before, can you give us any sort of exciting snippets from those to give an insight into what people on the Clean Cities, Clean Future program might be able to expect, to bring that to life a bit?
Right. So we have worked really only two ways prior to this new third way of working. That was doing either large projects or working with partners that take our technology and then distribute it to their project base around the world. So we've done projects that include the new capital city of Amaravati in India, which was a greenfield city designed by Norman Foster, to the Orlando Sports and Entertainment District. We've done work with the U.S. military on things I can't talk about. We've done work with several large REITs. We are about to engage one of the provinces of Canada. So there's kind of a range of things that we're doing and have done. We've, of course, worked with many of the real estate professionals. We work with CBRE, we work with Cushman & Wakefield, all digital twin projects. What we learned from doing those is, I think everything taught us something that ended up in what we now do today, right? So there's a lot of pieces there. We work with the property managers, we work with the architects like Atkins, we work with the cities, and all of that coming together, all of its wisdom, resulted in the product that we have today that can now serve all of those people. So I think the key is, things like, small example, Amaravati. Our technology was used to simulate, it was at the design stage of the city, it was used to simulate the impact of new housing design schemes on average street temperature on the ground in the peak of summer. So we integrated with a tool that was an AI tool from a Canadian company that did microclimate simulations of 3D environments and based upon all kinds of inputs. And we were able to work with the architects and have them use the tool successfully to configure an entire district scheme that was 8 degrees cooler in summer. And that's the power of these types of AI enabling technologies. We'll now be deploying this type of technology to optimize what happens inside the buildings as well. But the microclimate does have an impact. So there are many published use cases also available on the website.
Okay. The Greenfield cities then is an interesting use case. Do you encourage, this new one's been announced pretty regularly, one this week. Do you encourage those types of developers to come forward to try out this?
I do. I think I'm really happy with what I've seen and cities that are stepping forward. We're also reaching out to some, and it's going great. I'm really excited. I think it was exactly one of the reasons I built this company. We didn't build this company to do projects here and there. We built this company ultimately to have a universal standard that would be easy for anybody to use. I mean, as you know, Sarah, I spent 25 years in the building industry. In my last company, specifically just tried to solve these problems of efficiency. So I've been around this stuff my whole life, and learned 15 years ago the power of 3D data technology to solve all these problems. And then here we are with Smart World. So yeah, I think we've also got a bunch of awesome questions coming in the chat channel too. So do you want to get to some of those?
Yeah, so you've talked about it a bit, but do you want to add anything about how you plan on scaling the technology globally? Is there anything that you'd like to add on that?
Well, sure. And thank you for that. In every city we have new partners. We're going to hopefully make this a World Economic Forum project. We're going to introduce it to them also, so that all these major initiatives become a part of this, and vice versa. We believe that the engagement model, the go-to-market model, and that the business model is really smart. Nothing can stop us from scaling it quickly. The city doesn't have to sign anything. We could actually do the entire job without ever working directly with the city or requiring a signature from them. At the same time, they can be completely involved if they want to be. So we'd say it's an interesting model, and it's really catching fire, because I think it gets around all the procurement stuff out there, and that's so that makes the adoption of technologies that cities and countries need very, very difficult. So our hope is that we'll establish not only a new technology, but a new way of working with cities, where we don't have to ask them for money and spend a year and a half trying to get money from the local whoever, but actually that we can turn some of them into a partner. I will say that some of the channel partners will become distributors and will also earn revenue through this. So as we earn revenue, we intend to share with every single data contributor. So local partners, if in Europe you will have cities that will not be allowed to monetize. In the US, you have lots of cities that can do that. So I think there's a lot of cities I've seen looking for solutions that also bring revenue, which we absolutely can. I ran some numbers for the city of Pittsburgh the other day, and they're very impressive. So it's the business model also and the deployment model, I think, that will make this really fly.
Okay. You mentioned about the system being the glue for lots of different tools. Can you share anything about the standards that the master data model uses? We've got a question about that.
We don't talk about a lot of certain things. There isn't a single data model that we use. The brilliance of it is that we can work with any data model. So if we have a particular IoT data model, we can integrate that model. That's the beautiful thing. We don't go into a lot of detail in public about exactly what's under the hood. That's part of our IP, but we're actually agnostic to data model type.
Okay. Is there an initial package that could be delivered to builders, investors, contractors at the bidding stage?
Yes, it's the same tool. Can be used at any stage in the life cycle, from planning to construction to bidding, which is kind of in between those. Yeah, absolutely. And we are working with some construction companies to do just that.
So in your presentation, you focused heavily on buildings, and you explained why, but are there plans to extend this to other city infrastructure?
Sorry, the last part?
Plans to extend to other city infrastructure.
Yes, we did a very large project in the UK, which is a large rail project, and I think the infrastructure piece is the very next piece. They're kind of connected. So we're already integrating tools that are essential to that. Last year, we integrated a tool called Bentley iModel, which is a converter for one of Bentley's most popular infrastructure tools. So yeah, absolutely. This is as powerful a tool for infrastructure as it is for utilities, as it is for buildings. It's a good comment.
Bringing citizens into this discussion is important in terms of understanding what's happening in the city, and also what they can do to change their behaviour. Can you explain a bit about how this could help citizens participate, or have a say in what's happening?
I think downstream, I think the next phase of this, phase 2, would be to involve citizen engagement, whether that's a mobile app or a desktop web-based app, most likely a mobile app. we intend to do that. We think that if we can achieve this for building owners, we can also do a version of this for people. Ideally, for people to understand their own carbon footprints. Now, if we get smart, the carbon offset aspect of this is very interesting. We're now, as a company, studying potentially launching the world's first green building carbon coin. And if every project that we do in all these cities becomes a decarbonization project, that means every project is pulling thousands of metric tons of CO2 out of the air every year. Those are monetizable as carbon credits and carbon offsets. So there's an additional economic element to this, a financial element, which I think is very powerful, and the cities don't even get this yet. I think the successful monetization of the carbon currency aspect of this could help transform cities, because cities could take that money and they could reinvest it in transforming things, by reallocating that in ways which current structures don't simply allow them to do. And they're not actually taking wealth away from existing pockets. They're actually generating new wealth in the form of tradable carbon coins that comes out of decarbonization efforts. So it's a very smart model. So we have a lot of plans.
Excellent. Well, I think we just have time for one final question. So if anybody's got any other burning ones, please send them in now. But perhaps you could just tell us a bit about, the process of onboarding for cities then that come forward for this, from what you've seen so far, or?
Did we hit all the questions?
I think we got to most of them, but I'll just check through these ones.
Jimmy Tay, if you've got a project, an opportunity zone in Houston, let us know. Sorry, my eyes gravitate towards product opportunities. A 3 square mile Jimmy Tay Trin. Don't forget to get in touch with Jimmy Tay. Sorry about that, but that was interesting to me, selfishly. Very cool. Our investors do this for us all the time. Thank you so much. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Just the process of onboarding for cities that come forward.
Yes, it's quite straightforward. There's an MOU. It's non-binding, and they pay no money. It explains exactly what's to be done over the period of 9 months. The cities themselves simply participate in the review process. They contribute ideas, and they help us to liaise with essential entities when it comes to data collection. That's about it. And of course, they give us their goals. We'd like to take, each city has, some type of related program. So we'd like to dovetail this program with existing programs that the cities may have, so that we could take advantage of existing work that's been done often. And then, there's a review every, I think, month, where, you give a little bit of time. We do all the work, and the goal is to have something that is usable in 6 months and ready to go in 9-ish. So it all depends on how quickly we can move together.
Okay. We do have a question on why would I invest in a digital twin platform if I already have a BMS? A question that they've been asked and would like to answer in a compelling way.
Yeah, so, a BMS will help with one aspect of building operations, typically, or two, and they're very effective. Digital twins help to bring in all the aspects across design, construction, and planning, and can be used from site selection through demolition. You may change your BMS 3 times over ownership as that upgrades. And BMS, as I mentioned in my presentation, they do one of the things that we need to have done to get to net zero. There is no BMS system that will take us all the way there. So they're an important part. Do not get rid of that BMS. Hang on to that thing. But there's more to be done that digital twins can help you do.
Okay, a couple of quick fire ones now then. Can digital twin drive grid efficiency progress?
Can digital twins drive efficiency progress?
Grid efficiency.
Yes. So in our project we're doing in New Mexico, we were partnering with the Agile Fractal Grid, which is a energy services program management firm that has a new fractal grid technology that effectively optimizes the generation of and distribution of renewable power in a city using something I don't understand called fractal technology. So The answer is absolutely yes. I think that because when it comes to the true decarbonization, as you know, you have to go outside the building to the grid, you have to go outside to the sources of the materials. So yes, absolutely.
Cost of a typical project in terms of modeling and adjusting the tool?
It depends on the job. For individual projects that we do, they tend to be larger, to be honest. Cityzenith has done nothing small. So nothing less than $150,000 or $200,000 I think we've ever done. And some of them in hundreds of thousands of dollars. We just signed one for $3.6 million with AFG. It's a huge project, obviously. But we're working with commercial building owners in the Clean City, Clean Future project. I mean, we're looking at a price of 10 cents per foot. So if you have 100,000 feet, that's 10,000 a year, which is, frankly, it is shockingly low, but that's deliberate because we can make it work and we can scale this thing really to anywhere. We want to be very democratic and fair about that, so anybody can have it.
Okay. What would you say to a novice investor about investing in the company?
What's that?
What would you say to a novice investor about why they should invest?
I think if you're a novice investor, it's real simple. You're coming in at a time when at a very big booming space where certain companies are taking the lead. I've been growing companies my whole life. This is just about the most exciting time you possibly could come in as an investor, in my view. We've proven it, we're scaling, but we're not IBM. So if you wait 2 or 3 years, you can still invest in us, but you'll be paying, 7, 10 times, 15 times more potentially. I had early investors in my last company who invested in the first year, and in 3 years, I gave them back 17 times their money. So no investment is quote unquote safe. I want to say that, but there's a very experienced team here that with a tremendous technology and a lot of early traction, and we compete in the space of a bunch of big companies. So I am so proud of the fact that we get mentioned with Microsoft, IBM every single day, Bentley, Autodesk, and Cityzenith. We earned that. We earned that. So the next 3 years is about filling out the bottom and getting to those 1,000 cities.
Okay, so we have a couple of follow-up questions which you could perhaps send some more detailed answers to after the event, Michael. We are out of time now, but do you have any closing words for cities that have tuned in today?
I just want to welcome them all. I'm very excited. We've been at this for 12 years. I had the great pleasure of working with San Francisco, Barcelona, and Amsterdam years ago, and I learned a lot about working with cities. I want to tell you guys on the phone that I had met like 30 or 40 city CIOs, sustainability directors, over 400 mayors in my career, 50 in the US. I designed this for you, to work for you. I know what you need technologically, organizationally, commercially, and I know what the guys inside the city are looking for too. And I think I found something which works for everybody. And you're very welcome to be a part of this. We'd love to have you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for tuning in today. So you will receive a recording of this event by email after. As we said at the start, this is the first in a series. So you'll also receive an invitation to the next event, which takes place on the 21st of September. And that will be a deeper dive into some questions about the ROI on digital twins, and will feature Dominique Bonte, who leads the analysis at ABI Research, which Michael mentioned earlier. So thanks all very much again, and see you on the next event.
Thanks, everyone.